Welcome back. All right, so we're about halfway through the summer. I am recording this on July the 28th, just throwing that out there. I wanted to talk about players who've switched teams, and I wanted to pick one player from each team and just have a short discussion on that player where need be. But there are only 30 teams I'm going to be discussing because Montreal and Philadelphia, by all accounts, have not added a player outside of the potential for rookies to jump into the lineup. This is not a rookie discussion. I am completely fine with a rookie discussion at some point soon, but this is about veteran players or just players who played last year in the NHL who have switched teams. And I went in a random order if you're looking for how I picked these teams. I had a board over here with 32 logos on it, and I moved them over here, just grabbing one at random and trying not to grab more than one from a division at the same time. So I tried to make sure I was changing out the divisions. So we start with LA, we end with Pittsburgh, and again, for Montreal and Philly, the summer's still young. There's still the opportunity for them to take on a contract. That being said, Philadelphia doesn't have a ton of cap space to do it. Montreal does with Price on LTIR, but we'll see if they do make that move. Now, this is a double-ended marker, so we'll see if I remember to keep using the same end of the marker. And I know I could use other. I only have like 800. Why are you asking so many questions? All right. The LA Kings, we'll start off there. I was surprised by this move a little bit. I was surprised with them going from Cam Talbot to Darcy Kemper. Kemper had a rough year, and at this point in time, betting on a bounce back year from Kemper, there's a lot of risk to that. I think the LA Kings have made some kind of risky decisions over this offseason thus far, and so we'll see how they all turn out. But Kemper is a fascinating choice in that because, again, he did not have a great year in Washington. For Winnipeg, it's another goaltender, which is interesting because I don't know that I have a goaltender on the rest of the list, to be honest. Kaapo Kähkönen. Kähkönen and Comrie will be battling it out for that backup spot. We know that Hellebuck's probably going to play 60-plus games. In the event of an injury, though, and you have to go to Kähkönen and Comrie, if that's the case, could be a tough time. But Kähkönen's coming off of what was a really rough season between San Jose and then New Jersey. He had some good starts in there, but the overall numbers were not great. He definitely needs a fresh start. We'll see if Winnipeg can get what's been going wrong with his game straightened out because he can be a good goaltender. I was very big on him in Minnesota early in his career. I haven't really talked about him much lately because people will say, "Oh, he likes all these players." I stopped saying that I like a player at certain points, don't I? And Kähkönen's one of those ones where I think it was 2 seasons ago I just stopped saying it. Boston doesn't mean I dislike the player. It just means I'm no longer going to be discussing. Oh, I really like the guy. I can't. For the Boston Bruins, Elias Lindholm. Huge risk. Huge risk with Lindholm coming off of a really rough down season that ended with a pretty good run in the playoffs. I think that's how he got the cap hit he did from Boston. But is Lindholm going to take that step back into, say, the 65-plus point range, or is he going to stay in the 50-point range? Because if he stays in the 50-point range, Boston's going to regret that contract immediately. They really need Lindholm to go out there and perform. And I know he can, but they're going to need him to go out and perform at the top of his game. For the Islanders have made an addition. Feels like in a previous summer it was the Islanders who hadn't made an addition at this stage, but Anthony Duclair. Duclair's on the board. I think he's been quite the journeyman. Now he's the one that I'm hoping ends up approaching Sillinger numbers when it comes to how many teams he's played for. He's got to be getting into that realm of potentially challenging that record of 12 NHL teams. So got my fingers crossed that Duclair at some point does play for 13 NHL teams. Makes for a very interesting career to review. So Anthony Duclair is my pick for the New York Islanders. For Toronto, so what's interesting with Toronto is I feel like their defense gets a lot more criticism than is warranted. But Chris Tanev has been added by the Toronto Maple Leafs with the idea that they're going to, hopefully be better in this upcoming season in their own end than they were. And there's a lot riding on that goaltending tandem holding up as well. Toronto's in an interesting position, and in the power rankings I did yesterday, having Toronto in 12th on the power rankings, it just shows that I feel like they're right down towards that middle ground. Tanev, they bring him in because they're hoping to jump back up in the standings. So we'll see. The big thing with Tanev is he has gone through a lot over the years. He's blocked a lot of shots. Those do add up. For Vancouver, a lot of discussion with Jake DeBrusk and how many goals he's going to score in Vancouver. My expectation is around 30. That's my expectation. We'll see if he gets there or not, because I think with the forward group that the Canucks have, if DeBrusk crashes the net often, the puck will be there and he'll be able to get some tap-ins. They used to be called garbage goals. I don't hear about it now. Now you hear like, oh, really nice deflections and nice tip shots. But back in the day, we'd be like, well, yeah, he buries the rebound from the porch. That's kind of a garbage goal. But they all count exactly the same. All right, Dallas. For the Dallas Stars, so Dallas has a very good defense. They have a deep defense. Adding Lyubushkin is just for that depth. I think it's a pricey contract with Lyubushkin. The thing with Lyubushkin is he going to be good for them defensively in that third pairing? Is he going to play the full season? How well is that contract going to age? Again, because Lyubushkin is coming off of what I thought was an okay year. And so with Dallas, I mean, he's not going to play a top four role, but in the event of an injury, he could. So I do have some concern with Lyubushkin, not nearly as much, though. As I saw from some when he signed that contract, people going, that's way too much money, but he's going to play third pairing. It's expensive for a third pairing defenseman, though. I will not argue against that. Columbus, only one really I could put up for Columbus, isn't there? Sean Monahan. They're trying to get Johnny Gaudreau at least close to where he was in Calgary. If he can get back into the 85-point range, something like that, that would be great. Then you've got the Marchenko, Chinikov, Voronkov line. If they can keep that line together, have Monahan alongside Gaudreau. Maybe you put Fantilli on that line as well. All right, so Columbus is going to be an interesting team to watch. I may do a video before I go on vacation on Columbus. Of course, if you're watching this, you already know whether or not I did. You're also probably wondering, why is he wearing that ugly jersey? Well, I like to wear, over the last little while here, I've been wearing the San Jose jerseys that were the free handouts, and this, of course, is the Golden State Warriors crossover with San Jose, so you're welcome. I have the blue version, too. They're stunning. I think you could see me from space if I stood outside, just waved at the Google satellite. So yeah, Monahan for Columbus. For Seattle, it's a couple of different ones I could have picked for Seattle, but I'm going to go with Brandon Montour. I don't expect Brandon Montour to produce in Seattle the way he did in Florida. I don't think Seattle would be expecting that either. But he's a good, solid top four defenseman who has developed into the role that he would play in Florida for a team that won a Stanley Cup. And for Seattle, a team looking to get back into the hunt, you've added Montour, who's got a cup ring. You've added Stevenson, who has, I think he has the 2 cup rings. Didn't he have the cup ring in 2018 in Washington as well? So some Stanley Cup experience added and some talent with Montour. He can be a top 2 guy. It does take some pressure off Vince Dunn offensively on the blue line. We'll see how it turns out. For Detroit, Vlad Tarasenko. Tarasenko is a player that he's not in his prime. He's above his prime years now, but he can still score you 25 to 30 goals. And he is still a very good player. We saw what Patrick Kane going to Detroit did for his career. I think he can do the same for Vlad Tarasenko. Just give it a little bit more energy. And Vlad, he got himself a Stanley Cup ring this year as well. So, I mean, the Stanley Cup champions lose some players who cash in. And that's what happens. Not that I don't think it's going to hurt Florida overall. We'll get to Florida. But yeah, Vlad Tarasenko, maybe he's the one that pushes Detroit above the playoff line. For Washington, PL Dubois, or Pierre-Luc Dubois. He wants to go by PL Dubois. We'll see if that really sticks, though. But yeah, so Dubois going to Washington, he has to have a bounce-back season, having an absolutely miserable year with the LA Kings last season. Yeah, Dubois has to bounce back. He can't be that bad again, right? He has to be better, right? Right? All right. For Utah, I don't even need to look at the book. Mikhail Sergachev. One thing with this video, too, is I want to point out some guys who've changed teams that maybe people don't know or don't remember, because there were just so many names being thrown at us and so much money being thrown around. So Sergachev going to Utah, absolutely huge steal by Utah, I think, from Tampa. Though I understand the trade from Tampa's perspective as well. I think what Utah gets here with Sergachev is a very important piece on their blue line. As long as he's 100% healthy and can stay healthy for the full season, Utah should really see a benefit to their blue line with Sergachev at both ends of the ice. He was an absolute beast in 2022-2023 with Tampa, so if that's the guy who shows up in Utah this year, don't count Utah out. For Vegas, oh fine. I wrote Alex Holtz, but it doesn't look right. So Alexander Holtz, write it all out. But yeah, Holtz coming over from New Jersey, I do feel like this is a great chance for him to reset. Keep in mind that Vegas has had a fantastic track record when it comes to bringing guys in. And so Holtz is going to get an opportunity, I think, to play top 6 minutes for Vegas. There will be those who say, yeah, Vegas clearly not as good as they were, and are they even a playoff team? And then there will be those who say, nope, Vegas is good, they're going to be great. And there are definitely Vegas fans that just believe that this is all going to work out, this is going to be fine, and we'll see if they're right come October. For Buffalo, Jason Zucker. Buffalo's been mostly quiet this summer. I don't know how many players they necessarily would have been looking to bring in or who they made bids for. But Zucker's a good 20-goal scorer. He can come in, he can play for you. If they need to move him at the deadline, if they're out of the hunt, they can do that. But for Buffalo, they need to be in the hunt. They absolutely have to get to the playoffs, I would think. But it's been a long time since Buffalo made the playoffs. So long since they made the playoffs. Is Zucker mixing into that forward group going to get them there? Again, there's a wait and see there too for October and November. Key thing for Buffalo is have a good record at the end of November, then you've got a chance, right? For Nashville, there's only one guy it can be. No offense to Jonathan Marchessault, but I have to have Steven Stamkos' name on the board. It's going to take a while to get used to him in Nashville, isn't it? It is not normal to see him wearing a Nashville Predators jersey. I don't know how I feel about it myself, and I'm not a Tampa fan, but Stamkos is going to look to make this work. Marty St. Louis came out and said that he thinks this is going to be great for Stamkos because St. Louis, of course, left Tampa and played with the Rangers before he retired, and saying, there's some good experiences that can come out of this. So Stamkos is going to look to prove that right. Moving on, and next up is the New York Rangers. Interesting move in the offseason was Pittsburgh dumping off Riley Smith. Now, Smith is getting older, and his production has definitely dropped off over the last couple of years. Playing with the Rangers, don't be surprised if he gets off to a good start, though. I'm not saying he'll have a great season, but a good start, I can see that. I can see Riley Smith having a good start, and I hope he does. I hope that Riley Smith has a strong season for the New York Rangers. Good player, and I was kind of sad when he left Vegas because it felt like that Misfits line was really a huge part of their identity, and now William Karlsson's the only one remaining from that Misfits line. For the Oilers, going with Jeff Skinner. I thought about Arvidsson, but we'll talk about Skinner. Skinner getting bought out by Buffalo. I think that was a smart move by the Sabres, and then the Oilers signed Skinner to a very team-friendly contract. Jeff Skinner can still score 25 goals in this league. Playing in Edmonton, I think that goes up to 30. Maybe even 35, depending on which line he's on and the opportunities he gets. I think Skinner being picked up by the Oilers, not only will it leave people going, okay, we have to specify which Skinner since they have both, but I think it adds more to that offense. And the fact that this is an experienced top six forward is important because it feels like the Oilers have been trying younger guys there. They tried it with Puljujarvi. They tried it with Yamamoto. Holloway's had a couple looks there in the top six. Having Jeff Skinner should be a nice bump for them offensively. And again, I don't even have Arvidsson on the board, but Arvidsson can play big minutes too, as long as he can stay healthy. So yeah, the Oilers I think have had a good offseason. Tampa, it has to be I don't want to say replacement for Stamkos because there is no replacement for Stamkos, but Jake Guentzel gets the money that would have gone to Stamkos otherwise. Guentzel's cap hit is $1 million more than Stamkos is getting from Nashville, but it's understandable. Guentzel's a goal scorer. He's coming off of what was arguably his best offensive season in the National Hockey League, but of course there will be that question mark of how that's going to translate to Tampa. Guentzel, though, really, really good forward. He showed in Carolina that he wasn't just a product of Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin, because that gets to be a conversation when you're playing in Pittsburgh, right? You put up a bunch of goals, there's going to be somebody who says, well, yeah, but he's playing with Crosby, or yeah, he's playing with Malkin. There's some validity to that, but it also does kind of diminish those players, and I don't like that at all. But yeah, Guentzel, I think is going to prove himself with Tampa Bay, and it should be interesting to see how that works out there. For Minnesota has not been... either they haven't been aggressive or they just haven't been successful in picking up players that they want. One or the other. Now, considering, again, the cap penalty for the Parise and Suter buyouts, they may just not have much of a chance here. But Yakov Trenin is my pick for Minnesota. Decent forward. He can score at times. And for Minnesota, this is the kind of player they pick up. They're going to have three pretty good scoring lines. I think if Kaprizov can stay healthy, that'll lead to one really good scoring line. And again, it'll depend on the health of Zuccarello as well. But Trenin's a good addition for Minnesota. And again, you're working within the budget, so that works. For Anaheim not aggressive either because they know it's not their time yet. But I think picking up Brian Dumoulin could be a really smart pickup. He can be very good defensively, and Anaheim's defense, if you haven't watched it over the last couple of years, it can be a misadventure. So the Anaheim Ducks picking up Brian Dumoulin could be a really smart choice on their part. We'll see if he can get back to being where he was, I'd say about 5 years ago. Feels like I say that a lot in videos, but about 5 years ago. All right, Carolina. Jack Roslovic. Roslovic has been productive at times during his playing career. He's also been frustrating at times as well. Not going to lie. Roslovic, the talent is there, and I've said that since he was in Winnipeg. It's been a matter of converting that into goals and points. That's where there's been a struggle. Maybe Carolina finds that with him. Maybe they're able to coax that out of him. Carolina's lost some players in the offseason. It gives Roslovic a chance to maybe play a more prominent role in that lineup than he otherwise would have. And so we'll see how Roslovic does. For Colorado, I've talked about this guy a couple times since he was picked up. So I'm going to talk about him again here. And that's Erik Branstrom. Erik Branstrom, of course, coming over from San Jose. San Jose opting not to give him a qualifying offer. He becomes an unrestricted free agent. He goes to Colorado. Branstrom, I think, got a very team-friendly contract. And again, if you look at the numbers for Branstrom from this past season, both normal stats and advanced stats, he wasn't bad. He was pretty good. So it was just a matter of Ottawa didn't want to give him that qualifying offer. Not necessarily they didn't want to keep the player, but it is an unceremonious end for Brandstrom's time in Ottawa, considering all the hullabaloo there was around him when they got him from Colorado in a trade that it looks a little lopsided at this point. Or not from Colorado, from Vegas, in a trade that's kind of become kind of lopsided in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. The Mark Stone trade for Branstrom. So, yeah. That last piece of the well, not last piece, but the most prominent piece of that Mark Stone trade was Branstrom, and now he's gone to Colorado as a free agent. For Chicago, Tyler Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi, I think, is a very good middle six forward, so like second or third line. He can play first line at times. He's going to be playing first line in Chicago is the most likely thing. And I think he'll give them good value because I think his game could work really well with Bedard's. It'll be fascinating to see who Bedard has chemistry with now better wingers. No offense to Kurashev or anything, but Bedard's going to have better wingers. Maybe he still has Kurashev on one wing, but Bertuzzi, I think this could be a really, really good decision for Bertuzzi's career and for the Hawks as well. They're clearly ready to start building things up after tearing everything down. For Florida, so I talked about a defenseman they lost. Now, I did the video on players that could have a breakthrough season. I did see a comment saying they felt for Florida it was Adam Boqvist. Boqvist's been in the league for a while, and he's only 23 years of age. It might be easy to forget he's only 23 years of age. I don't know about a breakthrough season for Boqvist, though, but it would be nice to see him in the lineup on the regular. And in Florida, they do have an ability to turn a player around. And what they did for Forsling, nothing short of miraculous, how Forsling's become this really, really good defenseman. Maybe Boqvist's the next one, but Boqvist is a challenge. The offense is there defensively. It has been a misadventure, so we'll see how Boqvist does in Florida. But it's not an expensive contract, so there's not a lot of risk there. Calgary mostly quiet in terms of bringing players in. They've definitely not been quiet about players exiting. But Anthony Mantha. And again, for a team that had cap space and they have room in their top six, why not pick up Mantha? So if your team overachieves and Mantha's part of it, you look brilliant as Craig Conroy. If the team doesn't overachieve, and if you decide to move Mantha at the deadline, Conroy again could look like a genius. The Flames very likely to be towards the bottom of the standings this year, and I'm not saying that Mantha is going to prevent that, but Mantha's capable of putting up goals and points, and that's all Calgary's going to want from him this season. It could end up being a really smart move on their part. For New Jersey, seeing Brett Pesce in another jersey is going to be strange, even though he goes from red and black to red and black, so it's a lateral move that way. But Brett Pesce is a huge upgrade on that New Jersey blue line. So you get Hamilton back and Pesce. Let's say Pesce's playing with Hamilton, just throwing that out there. That's a pretty good duo. And they've added others to that blue line too. So New Jersey's blue line's going to be a lot better, and Pesce should be a big part of that. I'm kind of excited to see what New Jersey's going to be able to do this season. For Ottawa, honestly, when David Perron signed with Ottawa, I was mildly surprised because I don't know where exactly he's going to slot into the lineup. And at this stage of his career, is he going to get his offense back up? Is it going to descend a little bit? Does he get a bump playing in Ottawa early in the season? We'll find out. I think Perron can still be effective. You do need more veterans, I think, in that Ottawa lineup in order to get the kids, in order and all of that. But we'll see what Ottawa does this season with Ullmark being added, of course, in net. But I wanted to talk a bit about Perron because I was kind of surprised at Perron, just mildly. All right, St. Louis. So St. Louis added both of the Joseph brothers, which I think is a nice storyline. Which, again, because this summer has been absolutely crazy for movement, people may not know that's happened. And I'll talk a little bit about Matthew Joseph. Speed for days, yes. Really good third liner, also yes. Surprisingly good hands, also yes. So St. Louis gets a good value pickup. Ottawa had been trying to trade that contract for a while, even though that contract's completely reasonable for the production you get for Matthew Joseph. I'm not sure I understand it from that perspective. But yeah, Joseph gets a chance to have a change of scenery, goes to St. Louis, and I think that was a solid move on St. Louis's part. For San Jose, so the justification for this loudness that I'm wearing, another defenseman, Jake Walman. Walman at times gets overrated a bit when people are talking about how much they like him, but I get it. And Walman at times has been a defenseman I've really liked going back to his rookie year in St. Louis. and he had an up and down year with Detroit this past season, but he's been pretty good overall. Overall, I would say he's been pretty good. That's a solid addition by the San Jose Sharks. Wings fans weren't happy when that trade took place. But the Sharks, a team that had really historically bad defense this past season, it should get a little better under with Walman there, and with new coaching and just new systems. And the defense has been remade in general. San Jose should be better defensively. Still hasn't taken them out of last place in my power rankings. I'm such a jerk. Pittsburgh. Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes is looking to bounce back after a couple of rough seasons, first in Philly and then in St. Louis. And going to Pittsburgh, you just never know. Other Pennsylvania team, maybe seeing Philadelphia a little bit more regularly than he would have in St. Louis. Maybe it'll fire him up. Maybe he'll be like, you know what? I want to prove that it was a mistake for them to move on from me. So we'll see if that does happen. But let me know your thoughts. Which of the new additions, or maybe somebody who's not on the board, which new addition are you most fascinated to watch this season? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.